Themi Theo here, coming back to you with another episode full of useful photography tips and tricks. Today's video will be about why over-preparation has diminishing returns and why choosing your gear within weight limitations is extremely important. This week I went to Bear Mountain State Park in upstate New York to photograph the autumn colors before November came around and made everything look dead and disgusting. I had the pleasure of bringing my girlfriend, Alexandra. Not only do I love her presence, but she helps avert any doubt about me being a creep or a loser, to which I'm eternally grateful. So we begin our story. We are on our way, and before we even get there, I'm thinking about how I can make the most of my time with Alexandra. Not only because I wanted to see as much as possible on our hike, but because Alexandra isn't used to moving around for 6+ hours, like hiking entails. So I made the bright idea to take the horse trail to go up the mountain even faster. A bit of foreshadowing, in case you guys haven't noticed, I'm not a horse. I was tugging a load of 15 pounds with 75% of my lens collection on my back. I ended up bringing all my lenses from 20mm to 400mm. I brought a Sony 20mm f1.8, a Samyang 45mm f1.8, a Tamron 70 to 180mm f2.8, and the Sony 100 to 400 GM to use on my A7R4. Two hours into the hike, I start to realize my Achilles tendons were about to explode. There were points where the trail reached a 45-degree incline, and Alexandra was only carrying her water bottle and jacket. Still found a way to complain though. And while I was busy carrying a small child on my back, it hit me that any amount of time spent moving forward would be time we had to spend walking back. Otherwise, it meant we had to finish the whole hiking loop. I wasn't about to bet on Alexandra or my ankles, so I made the executive decision to turn back after 2 hours. Don't get me wrong, I was still overall happy with the hike, and I did get all the photos I needed to justify the trip. But the athlete in me felt the need to do more. But the ankles in me were even happier, so I'll take a victory where I could get it, right? I think the worst part of the trip for sure was that I did not pull out my 100 to 400 GM even one time. The lens that is arguably the best in my collection and the one that weighed the most. You know that lens accounted for 25% of the weight on my back? Looking back on it, I think my justification for this was because my other lenses were smaller and easier to set up on the fly, whereas the 100 to 400 GM requires me to stop, rest my bag on a flat surface in order to change the lens. I couldn't justify doing that on a 45-degree incline while hiking, and to counter that, if I only used the 100 to 400 GM the entire time, I would have had even less successful shots. Most of the shots I took weren't even telephoto in the first place. The lens that I actually used the most was the 20mm f1.8 from Sony, my second lightest lens. If anything, this trip revealed to me that I needed 24 to 70 of some kind. Anything that wasn't a portrait was shot at f4.5 or higher anyway. I did some research on all the 24 to 70s available, but there's no obvious choice. I'll save my gripes about that for a future video. But for now, this trip only showed me that it's important to consider what you're photographing and not to default on being prepared for everything. 24 to 70 focal length seems like the perfect balance between environmental and decent portraiture. Both sectors of photography I need more practice in. This experience at Bear Mountain left me a lot of insightful lessons for the future. And as me and my girlfriend got some drive-through food on the way home, I still consider the day to be a massive success. Thank you for listening to my experience. I hope you learned something for your future outings. Thanks again for keeping up with Themi Theo Photography. I'll catch you on the next video.